When I opened my front door at 2:30 on a Tuesday, the first thing I heard was my wife laughing like she had forgotten my name. The second thing I saw was her bare feet skidding across the hardwood like a cartoon. And the third thing I felt was my whole life tilting 1 inch to the left. Just enough to make everything spill, she burst out of our bedroom, clutching my gray hoodie to her chest like it was a shield. Eyes wide, face flushed, and she blurted, "Why are you home so early today?" Like I was the one cheating on her schedule. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was stunned, but because my brain does this petty little thing in emergencies where it notices details. Like the lemon candle I hate was lit. The one she only lights when she's trying to set a mood. Like the throw pillows I never touch were arranged too neatly. Like my work boots by the entryway had been nudged aside. As if somebody else's shoes had needed the space. She stepped closer, trying to corral me back toward the door with her body, like my own home had suddenly become a restricted area. And that's when I saw the second phone on the console table. Face down, not hers, not mine, and definitely not from our wireless plan. I looked at her, then past her, and I said, "I got cut loose early. Boss said the shipment's delayed. Thought I'd surprise you." My voice came out calm, which seemed to confuse her more than anger would have. She gave a quick little smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi." She laughed again, too bright, too fast, and my stomach didn't drop. It hardened, like concrete setting, because the bedroom door behind her was still slightly open, and inside, something shifted. Not a ghost, not a cat. A person trying not to be a person. I walked around her, not pushing, not rushing, just moving like I still owned the air in my lungs. She grabbed my wrist. "Babe, wait. Don't." And I glanced at her hand on me and thought, wow. The audacity has great grip strength. I gently peeled her fingers off, the way you'd remove a sticker without tearing the page, and I stepped into the bedroom. I expected a stranger, maybe some guy from the gym, maybe a random mistake with cologne and regret. But the man standing half behind my closet door wasn't random. He wasn't a stranger. He was my brother. Micah, my little brother, with the same crooked eyebrow and the same dimple we used to joke was our family's faulty stamp. He had on his jeans and one sock, like he'd dressed in a hurry but still paused to look for dignity under the bed. He raised both hands, like this was a misunderstanding he could talk his way out of, and he said, "Bro, listen." And that one word, bro, hit me harder than any insult could have, because it tried to claim closeness while he was standing in my closet like a thief. My wife, Talia, slid in behind me, voice shaking. "It's not what it looks like." And I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because people always say that. As if my eyes are unreliable narrators, I looked at Micah, then at Talia, then at the framed wedding photo on the dresser, us on the beach, wind in her hair, my hand on her waist, both of us smiling like we had a secret. "Turns out we did," I said. "You're wearing my sock." Micah blinked, confused, like I'd switched languages. I pointed. "One sock, the navy one with the little white stripe. Those are mine." And Micah's mouth opened and closed, like he was searching for the right excuse in a file cabinet labeled stupid. Talia took a step forward, trying to touch my arm again. "Please, we can explain." I looked at her and finally gave her the surprise she wanted. "Not anger, not yelling, just clarity," I said. "Don't." My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The room went quiet except for the faint buzz of her phone on the bed. Buzzing again and again, the screen lighting up with a name I knew by heart. Mom. I realized with a weird calm that my mother had been calling while my brother was in my closet, and my wife was performing innocence in my hallway. And that told me something important. This wasn't an accident. It was a lifestyle, Micah said. "It started when you were always working," and I nodded once like I'd heard a weather report. "I work, yeah. I pay the mortgage, I pay the car. I pay for the fridge you keep stocked with oat milk you don't even drink." And he flinched because the truth is sharper than yelling. Talia tried again. I was lonely, you've been distant, and I gave her a small, almost polite smile. Lonely is a feeling, betrayal is a choice. I took my keys from the dresser, the ones she'd tossed there last night with a kiss. I walked out of the bedroom, and she hurried after me, voice climbing. Where are you going? We can fix this. Micah followed too, still clutching his sockless foot like he was the victim of poor timing. I stopped in the doorway to the hall and looked at both of them. I said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pack a bag. I'm going to leave. And you two are going to sit with what you did without making me manage your feelings about it. Talia's face crumpled. Micah's jaw tightened. And I could already see the script they wanted. Shouting, crying, bargaining, a dramatic scene they could replay later and claim as proof it was complicated. I refused to give them that. I walked into the guest room, pulled out a suitcase, and started folding clothes with the same steady hands I used to balance inventory sheets at work. Talia hovered in the doorway, whispering my name like it was a spell. Micah stood behind her, suddenly silent, and in that silence I heard something else. My own heartbeat, steady, stubborn, telling me I wasn't about to beg for a place in my own life. I zipped the suitcase, grabbed my laptop bag, and as I passed the console table, I flipped the second phone over with one finger. The screen lit up with a lock-screen photo of Micah and Talia at a rooftop bar, cheeks pressed together, smiling, and the date in the corner was 8 months ago. I paused. Not because it hurt, but because it clarified. 8 months meant holidays, meant Sunday dinners with my family, where Micah passed me the potatoes and Talia laughed at my jokes, meant my mother calling right now, probably to remind me about Dad's birthday, the normal life soundtrack playing over a betrayal. I pocketed my own phone, opened the front door, and Talia rushed forward, blocking me with tears that arrived right on cue. Please don't leave like this. And I looked at her, really looked, and I said, I'm not leaving like this. You are. Then I stepped outside. The cold air snapped my face awake, and behind me the door stayed open for a second, like the house itself didn't know who it belonged to anymore. I walked to my car, set the suitcase in the trunk, and as I got in, my phone lit up again. Mom calling. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because I already knew the first twist wasn't just my wife and my brother. It was what came next. Who knew? Who covered? And how long they'd all been smiling at me like I was the punchline. I started the engine, backed out of the driveway, and I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Because I wasn't going to drive forward while staring at what didn't deserve me anymore. I drove with both hands on the wheel like the steering column was the only honest thing left in my life. My phone kept vibrating in the cup holder. Mom, again, then Dad, then Micah, then Talia. Like they'd formed a little call center dedicated to my emotional collapse. I turned the radio off because I didn't need music. I needed information. I pulled into the grocery store parking lot I always stopped at for gas station coffee, parked at the far edge where nobody does cart returns, and finally answered my mother on speaker. She didn't say hello, she said. Where are you? Your brother said you left the house acting crazy, and I stared at the windshield like it might provide subtitles for the audacity. I said, I'm fine. I left because Micah was in my closet half-dressed. There was a pause so long I could hear her breathing. Then she hit me with the classic. Now, Evan, don't exaggerate. I laughed once, short and dry, like a cough with opinions. I said, if anything, I'm under-exaggerating. He had one of my socks on, Mom. She lowered her voice, the way she did when she wanted to sound reasonable while being completely unreasonable, and she said, marriage is complicated. Families make mistakes. Don't turn this into a war. And that's when the floor dropped out from under my calm, not into rage, into clarity, because you can't say, don't turn this into a war, unless you've already chosen a side, I said. How long have you known? Another pause. Then, Evan, please. I'm asking you not to do anything you'll regret. And my jaw tightened. I said, that's not an answer, Mom. And she sighed like I was the difficult one. It's not my place to get involved, she said, which is mom speak for. Yes, I knew, and I helped them sleep at night anyway. I ended the call without yelling, just clicked it off like shutting a drawer. My hands were steady, my stomach wasn't. I opened my notes app and wrote one sentence. They knew, because if you don't document reality, people rewrite it for you. My phone buzzed again. Talia this time. I let it ring until it stopped. Then she texted, "Please come back so we can talk like adults." I stared at that line and thought, the nerve of someone who just hosted my brother in our bedroom to invite me to an adult conversation. I replied, "I'll talk through a lawyer," then immediately put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because the only adults in this situation were going to be me and whatever attorney I hired. I drove to my friend Malik's place. He owned a small mechanic shop and an even smaller tolerance for nonsense. When he opened his door and saw my suitcase, he didn't ask if I was okay. He said, "You need a drink or a plan?" I said, "Both, but start with the couch." He tossed me a hoodie, told me to sit, and while he dug around the kitchen, I finally let the night catch up to me. Not tears, not melodrama. Just that strange buzzing behind the eyes when you realize the life you were protecting was protecting everyone but you. Malik came back with water and a protein bar like we were about to run a marathon, he said. "Tell me the facts," so I did. Early day, hallway, closet, brother, sock, rooftop bar photo, 8 months, mom's call. Malik listened without interrupting. Then he said, "Man, that's not a mistake. That's a committee meeting," I snorted. "Because humor is my coping mechanism and also my personality," he said. "What do you want?" I said. "I want out, clean, fast. I want my name off anything that can be wrecked by their choices." Malik nodded, and he slid a business card across the coffee table. "Family law attorney, sharp, expensive, worth it," he said. "Call her first thing. And while you're at it, move your money, because people get spiritual about forgiveness and strategic about bank accounts." I didn't argue. I logged into our joint account right there on Malik's couch, and my chest went cold. The balance was lower than it should have been. Not a little, a lot. I pulled up transactions. There were charges I didn't recognize. Boutique hotel, spa, a men's watch store. And 2 weeks ago, a cash withdrawal that looked like rent money. I scrolled further, and there it was. A transfer to an account labeled M Savings. Not my initial, not hers. I felt something in me click into place. The affair wasn't just emotional or physical. It was financial. They weren't just stealing time. They were stealing my future. Malik leaned over, whistled low. "Oh, they bold," he said. And I nodded, because I could finally see the shape of the betrayal. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment situation. It was a slow drain, like a sink left running while I was out working overtime. I took screenshots. Every transaction, every transfer, every weird little purchase. Then I changed my passwords. All of them. Email, banking, cloud storage. And I turned on 2-factor authentication, like my sanity depended on it, because it did. My phone lit up with a missed call from Micah, then a voicemail. "I didn't play it," Malik said. "Play it, you might need it." So I did. Micah's voice came through, shaky but still somehow entitled. "Evan, bro, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go like this. Talia loves you, she's just confused." And then, like he was reading from a script, he added, "Mom says we can all sit down and talk." I paused it and looked at Malik. I said, "Did he just say?" "Mom says," Malik made a face like he tasted something sour. He said, "They're trying to pull you into a group project where you do all the emotional labor and they get a reset." I nodded. Then I forwarded the voicemail to myself and saved it. Because I wasn't going to win this with feelings. I was going to win it with receipts. That night I slept on Malik's couch, fully clothed. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't want to get too comfortable anywhere. Comfort had become a trick. At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed through Do Not Disturb, emergency bypass, a text from Talia, "Evan, I'm pregnant." I stared at the screen until the letters stopped looking like letters. Malik snored in the other room. The house was quiet, and my brain did that detail thing again. Remembering the rooftop bar photo date, 8 months. remembering the men's watch store charge, remembering the boutique hotel. And I realized this was the next twist. Not just betrayal, but a bomb tossed into my clean exit. I didn't reply. I just took a screenshot, set the phone down, and watched the ceiling like it might tell me which lies were about to become my problem if I wasn't careful. By morning, the pregnancy text had cooled into a neat little threat sitting in my notifications. I wasn't spiraling. I was sorting. Because panic is how people get manipulated, I called the attorney on Malik's card at 9 sharp. Her name was Denise Harper. Her voice sounded like a stapler in human form, efficient, unbothered, and exactly what I needed. I told her the basics: cheating, brother, money moved, possible pregnancy claim. She didn't gasp, she didn't do sympathy. She said, "Do not go back to the house alone. Do not discuss the baby without a paternity test. Do not respond emotionally in writing. Send me the screenshots." I said, "Done." She booked me for an emergency consult that afternoon, then added, "And freeze your credit. People who drain joint accounts love opening new lines in your name." So while Malik made coffee, I sat at his kitchen table and locked everything down. Credit freeze, bank alerts, new account in my name only. My hands never shook, but my heart kept doing this irritating little flutter like it wanted drama I refused to provide. Talia called at noon. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was breathy and shaky. "Evan, please, I'm sorry. I was going to tell you. It just happened. And then the pivot, I'm pregnant and I'm scared. I deleted nothing. I saved everything. Because in court feelings are cheap and patterns are expensive. When Denise met me, she didn't ask how I was holding up. She slid a legal pad across the desk and said, "Timeline, dates, amounts, names." I gave her the rooftop photo date, the transfers, the hotel charges, the watch store. I told her my mother's reaction. Her pen paused at that. She said, "That matters. Families pressure people into reconciliation to avoid consequences. We're not doing that. We're doing paperwork." Then she asked, "Do you have anywhere safe to stay?" I said, "Malik." She nodded. "Good." Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "If she's pregnant, it may be yours. It may not, either way. You do not volunteer to be anyone's financial safety net until the truth is verified." I felt the tightness in my chest loosen, not because it was easy, but because someone else was finally speaking reality out loud. Denise filed for separation immediately, requested financial restraining orders, and drafted a formal notice that all communication should go through her office. When I got back to Malik's, my phone showed 8 missed calls, mostly from Mom, 1 from Dad, 3 from Micah, and a new text from Talia. "I told your mom you're ignoring me. She says you'll regret this." I laughed, actually laughed, because it was such a perfect snapshot of their whole strategy. Run to Mom, activate guilt, push me back into the role of responsible son, responsible husband, responsible fool, I typed one reply. For future reference, threatening me with my own regret is not the flex you think it is. Then I remembered Denise's voice. Do not respond emotionally in writing, so I deleted it and sent nothing. Instead, I took a walk around the block. Cold air, gray sky, my head clearing with every step. And when I came back, Malik was standing by his garage with a box. He said, "A delivery came for you." I hadn't ordered anything. The label had my name and my home address. My stomach tightened again. I opened it carefully. Inside was a brand new watch, expensive, still wrapped, and a note in Micah's messy handwriting. "We can fix this. Don't blow up the family." I stared at the watch like it was radioactive, because now I understood that watch store charge wasn't a gift for me. It was a bribe waiting to be framed as an apology, proof they'd planned their cleanup before I even found the mess. I set the box down, took a photo, and texted Denise the image with one line, "Evidence delivered to third-party address," and for the first time since Tuesday, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I could see the road, and it didn't lead back to them. 2 days later, Denise called and said, "You're not going to like this," which is lawyer code for brace yourself. Talia filed a temporary support request, claiming you abandoned her and she's expecting, and she listed your brother as a witness. I almost admired the teamwork. Almost, I said. Tell me what to do, she said. We respond with documents, not emotion. Then she paused. Also, your mother left a message with my receptionist asking for a family meeting at your house. I said, not happening, Denise said. Good answer. That night, Malik and I went to my place with a police standby, Denise arranged. Not for drama, for safety and accountability. The house looked normal from the outside. Porch light on, wreath still up like time had stopped. Inside, it smelled like that lemon candle again. Talia was there, sitting at the kitchen island like she owned the narrative, and Micah was on the couch, shoes off, comfortable. I didn't even look at him. I walked straight to the office closet and pulled my file box, passports, birth certificate, my dad's old keepsakes I'd stored. Talia followed, whispering, Evan, please. And I said, stop saying my name like it's a negotiation. Micah finally stood up. Bro, don't do this. And I answered without turning. You already did this. I found a folder labeled business, my folder, except the papers were out of order, some missing. I froze, then kept moving, because panic is what they wanted. I loaded my essentials into a tote. The officer watched quietly. Malik watched louder. He said, Y'all really tried to run a whole operation in this man's house, didn't you? Talia snapped. Mind your business, Malik grinned. It is my business when my friend's getting played. I carried everything to my car, and as I came back for the last box, my mother's car pulled into the driveway. Perfect timing. She stepped inside like she still had a key to my adulthood. Her eyes went straight to me, then to Talia's stomach, then to Micah, and she said, Evan, stop being stubborn. This can be worked out. I set the box down gently, looked at all three of them, and said, No, what can be worked out is the truth. Because I just realized something. The missing papers weren't an accident, they were a plan. And if they'd touched my business idea, if they'd taken it, this wasn't just betrayal. It was theft with a smile. I didn't argue in the kitchen. I didn't plead my case to a jury of traitors. I walked outside, sat in my car, and called Denise. When she picked up, I said, They've been in my business files. Documents are missing. She didn't hesitate. She's trying to hit you with support while they strip your future. Go back in, take photos of every drawer, every cabinet, every folder. Do it with the officer present, and do not accuse them out loud. I went back in like I was returning a library book. Calm, polite, deadly focused. I photographed the office, the open drawers, the file cabinet, the folder tabs, the empty slots where certain pages should have been. Talia's eyes tracked me like she finally understood I wasn't leaving with heartbreak. I was leaving with evidence. Micah scoffed. Man, you're being dramatic. I looked at him and said, You're in my house without permission. Wearing comfort like it's your right. Don't talk to me about drama. My mother tried a softer tone. Evan, you don't want to destroy your family, I answered. You mean the family that's currently standing in a circle pretending they didn't light the match? She flinched. Not because I yelled, but because I didn't. The officer cleared his throat, a gentle reminder that we were all being observed by reality. Talia suddenly blurted, Fine. You want the truth? I'm not pregnant. I just needed you to come back. And the room went silent in a way that felt holy. Micah's face went white. My mother's mouth opened like she'd been slapped by the confession she'd helped enable. Malik let out a slow, impressed, whoo, and I just nodded once, because there it was, the proof that every plea had been a tactic, every tear a tool. I looked at Talia and said, Thank you. Then I turned to the officer. I'd like that statement noted. Then to my mother. Now you can stop calling me stubborn, because I'm not leaving a wife. I'm escaping a scheme. I walked out with my boxes, and behind me I heard my mother whisper, Talia, why would you say that? Like the problem was the honesty, not the months of lies. In my car I sent Denise one text. She admitted fake pregnancy in front of witness, and my hands stayed steady. because the part of me that used to hope they'd change had finally clocked out for good. The next week was paper cuts and clean lines. Denise filed an amended response, attached the screenshots, the voicemail, the fake pregnancy admission, the missing document photos, and suddenly the story stopped being "Poor Talia" and became, "Why did Talia and Micah move money and stage a lie?" Micah tried calling from a new number. I let it go. Mom sent a text that said, "I didn't know about the pregnancy lie," as if that was the only sin worth mentioning. I replied once, through Denise. No direct contact, then went silent. I moved into a tiny studio above Malik's shop, mattress on the floor, folding table desk, zero nostalgia. And I built. Because when you lose people who were dead weight, you walk faster without even trying. The missing business papers turned up in Discovery, photocopied, with Micah's fingerprints metaphorically all over them. And that's when Denise smiled for the first time. Because now we weren't just divorcing, we were protecting my intellectual property, and the court doesn't care about tears, it cares about proof. I launched my logistics consultancy with one client, then 2, then 5, and on the day my first real contract cleared, I bought myself a watch. Not the bribe one, my own earned quiet mine. A year later, I was signing a lease on a small warehouse with my name on the door. My company had grown from a folding table to a real operation. And my life felt lighter in a way I didn't know was possible. That afternoon, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I answered because sometimes business is weird, and Talia's voice poured through like she'd been practicing. "Evan, please, I miss you. I made mistakes. I was scared. Micah left. Mom won't even look at me. And I need you." I leaned back in my chair, watched my team through the glass, people who showed up, people who didn't lie for sport, and I said, "No, you don't. You need a consequence to stop being loud in your life." She started crying, saying my name again like it could rewind time, and I kept my tone calm, almost kind. I said, "I'm not your emergency exit anymore." Then I hung up, blocked the number, and went back to work. Because the best revenge wasn't ignoring her calls. It was building a life so solid her chaos couldn't even reach the foundation.